Hello everyone. This booklet I'm holding, Phantoms of Reality, contains my testimony, written some 40 years ago, the individual happenings written down as they happened, so I'm not relying on a faulty memory. Some say that it is a fantasy from the Middle Ages and that I'm a drunk or a drug abuser, because such stories don't belong in this enlightened age. Well, let us begin. The phone was ringing as we returned from holiday. I picked it up and a furtive voice said, "Keith, the Brotherhood are linking with the all-powerful Star Brethren to stop you writing about them and your experiences." "Ian," I replied, "don't worry about me. God has placed his protective cloak around me." With a click the phone went dead. He'd cut me off because he was frightened to be speaking to me because he didn't want to upset the Great White Brotherhood that he was still a member of and I had been. We just returned from a holiday where I'd given a lift to an old lady who had previously accosted my wife and two of our children in the town centre, only a matter of minutes previously. On the outskirts of the town, as I drove towards the coast, my wife said, "Oh, there's the old lady, let's give her a lift." Well, I did, and she took us miles out of our way. And eventually she told me to turn right up a very narrow road, only wide enough for one car, rising up a hill. And on the brow she told me to stop, and she got out. Well, I couldn't see her in the wing mirror, so I got out as well to see if she'd fallen. Well, the hedgerows were very high on either side and very thick, and it was impossible to see what lay behind them on either side of the road, and I couldn't find an opening where she might have gone through. But I drove the car up a few yards and had another go at finding her, but it was just as if she'd disappeared into thin air. Well, somewhat mystified, I continued up the road, but I couldn't turn around because it was impossible, and eventually dropped down onto the Atlantic Coast Road, where a feeling of terror overcame me, and I didn't know what this feeling was all about. I just felt I had to get away from something or someone. I had a most strange experience, and anyhow, later on we found an hotel for the night, and it had two rooms, one for me and my wife and one for our three children. At 2 o'clock in the morning I woke with a start. What was this rosy glow in the room? The lights were turned off, the curtains were drawn, the moon wasn't as bright as this, it certainly wasn't daylight, and when I turned towards the window I was absolutely astonished to find that there were two demons on the window seat. It was a large room with a very large bay window, and when the curtains were drawn, the window seat, about 3 feet high, was fully exposed. It didn't have anything on it because our children had been playing on it before they went to their room. Well, these two creatures, they were covered in brown hair. I estimated about 4'6" to maybe 5 foot tall. They'd got humanised heads with pointed ears, a tail and cloven hooves instead of feet, and one of them was sat down on the front of the window seat with its legs dangling over, and it had picked its tail up between its legs, and it was swinging its tail round and round while looking at me with the most baleful glowing eyes, dreadful look on its face. And the other one was walking up and down behind it, walking, turning, and all the time its head pointing at me. So I'd got these two demon faces willing me to go, as I thought. Go, get out of here, get away. Well, I realised that they seemed to be there to warn me, and this performance went on for about 2 hours until dawn started to break, when they disappeared, and I then fell asleep, and we awoke about 7 o'clock and had a hasty breakfast, and this dreadful feeling of the previous day had come back to me, that I had to escape from something. So, forgetting about our touring holiday in the south of Ireland, I drove towards the border with Northern Ireland by Londonderry and crossed over. When the feeling left me, we went to the Giant's Causeway Hotel and spent a fortnight there, where I had time to reflect that this old woman that had foisted herself onto us must have been a witch. To this day I don't know whether she was a physical witch or a spirit witch, but she certainly disappeared from our gaze, and she'd obviously been sent by the Great White Brotherhood to link us to these demons that had appeared to me and telling us to get away, get away. Well, why had all this happened? It was probably about 3 years previously I'd sought spiritual healing from the Great White Brotherhood for my dying father. He'd had one lung removed for cancer, and there were 2 more cancers growing at the top and bottom of his lung. Well, in the early 60s there was no such thing as lung transplants, and the doctors had just given up on him. So I approached a healer I knew. It turned out he was in the Great White Brotherhood, and I realised later that by allowing him to pass the healing power through me to my father, I had become linked to the spirits of the Great White Brotherhood. The healer had assured me that they had nothing to do with spiritualism, even though when I went to the group's meeting, the leader and founder of the group was a spirit medium and had a Red Indian guide. But by then my ego was being massaged with such phrases as, "Oh, you must have been led to us, there must be great work for you to do," and this type of, "You must be a chosen one." Well, I'm only human, and I expect I was wanting to serve God, and I eventually came to believe that this miraculous power they had. My father, by the way, lived for a further 7 years, and I thought they were of God, but that illusion was to be rudely shattered when the founder and leader, in a brightly lit sitting room at the hotel, at the group's headquarters, when I was to undergo an initiation test, was transfigured by a spirit snake, stretching out to damn me for Satan for all time. The amazing thing is that proof of what had happened in this transfiguration came next morning, because I was on a week's retreat there at the headquarters, and the first lesson next morning was by chanting and deep meditation to delve deep inside ourselves to contact the dormant Kundalini spirit snake that is set to lie at the base of all our spines. We were taught that if we could bring this alive, it would give us tremendous insight into the spirit world, and would eventually crawl up our spine to our head, and there it would grow wings and take our soul to heaven. I'm only telling you what we were taught. I ignored all this from this lesson, because I'd had shown to me how the snake lies within the medium's body, and when the conditions are right, it strikes out to paralyse the soul with fright and then damn it for Satan. I will have to end here because of the time factor, but thank you very much for watching.